All right, welcome back to another episode of Run Mountain Peaks. This past week, I had two close encounters with black bears, and I spend a lot of time in the woods on trails, and seeing black bears is not very common. So to have two on kind of back-to-back trips to the woods was super rare and pretty cool, so I'll tell those stories. And I figured it would be a good time to talk about the Pemi bear from this summer. So there was a bear in the Pemigewasset Wilderness in the White Mountains that was kind of harassing hikers this summer, grabbing some backpacks, grabbing some food. I think it destroyed a couple tents at one point in the summer, so causing mayhem. And then also in the news, there were some incidents in the Ozarks, I believe, with black bears this year. That was the first time that happened in a while. So I figure let's do a big bear talk today. We'll talk about bears. I'll tell the two stories, and I'll give my thoughts on bears. Because some people ask me about bears on my excursions, so I'll do a bear talk. Next up, I'm going to talk about my first ultramarathon. So last week, I talked about the Mid-State Massive, which was the first ultramarathon that I signed up for, but I never went to it. I figure this week, I'll talk about the first ultramarathon that I've ever done and finished. It was a race, but it kind of wasn't a race. It was a virtual race during COVID. And it's a pretty good story, I think, and kind of how I got started with the ultramarathon running. So I will tell that story building off of last week. Next up, we're going to talk about Zone 1 and Zone 2 training. I feel like Zone 2 training has got a ton of buzz in the news, on social media, online. It's always, you just see Zone 2, Zone 2, Zone 2. And I have been training with this low heart rate method for a few years now. And so I have some thoughts on the Zone 1, Zone 2. Some people get those confused, how to train in those zones. So I'll do a Zone 1, Zone 2 training talk. And I'm no scientist, so this is just going to be kind of anecdotal stuff about my training and how I've implemented it and how it's helped me, because I think it's really improved me as a runner. So we'll do a low heart rate aerobic training talk. And then what else we got? I'll talk about my week of training. Throw that in. I went back to the track this week, so I'll do some, I'll just throw in kind of my whole week of training. And then we're going to talk about the Biggs Backyard Ultra. So I mentioned this last week. This was the World Championships of the Last Man Standing Ultramarathon format. And some crazy performances. A world record goes down. So we'll do a quick recap about that. And I'm going to do a deer season update. So I'm just going to do that weekly. Just do a quick deer season update at the end. And what else do we have on here? And then I have, moose story. I have a moose story / moose scenario. I guess we'll do this after the bear talk. That's, I don't know, kind of funny to think about. So that is what is on the agenda today. So we can dive right into it. So the bear encounters. Last weekend, I was hiking with my girlfriend Jocelyn, and we did Mount Moosilauke, one of the 4,000 footers. And it was a good day. It was a nice fall day, like perfect weather, pretty windy up top. But it was a good hike, and we were having fun. And one of the things, so Jocelyn's just getting into hiking the 4,000 footers, I think maybe 8 or 9 or 10 done this year. So getting into the hiking and the 4,000 footer stuff. And one of the things that she always says is, I haven't seen a bear or a moose out, in the White Mountains or out on trail yet. And I kind of tell her, hey, I go out there a bunch and I never see them. It's very rare that you see wildlife when you're hiking the 4,000 footers. I think they're so popular and the woods are so big up there, you just really don't see them too often. They're definitely out there and there are encounters, but not too frequently. So that was one thing that we had talked about this summer. I was like, I don't know, we have a pretty good chance this summer of seeing one. And we did not see one this summer when we were up there hiking. There was one day at Mount Cannon, there's always black bears. So there was one day we drove by and I was like, you see that little black dot up there? That's a black bear. You seen a bear? She goes closer. Was not too impressed, but it was still cool. I mean, there's always bears on Cannon Mountain. But anyway, so we're talking about this as we're hiking Moosilauke, and I forget if we were talking about, I haven't seen a bear or moose this summer, I really wanted to, or I think I was telling her the story a few years ago on Mount Moosilauke the top, like, couple of 100 feet is all exposed. Like, there's no trees or anything. It's above tree line, 360 views. And I think there was a moose hanging out around there for a while a few years ago. I don't know if it was sick, but it was, like, hanging out at the summit for a long time. Lots of people saw it. It was online and all that jazz. And so I was telling her that story, and she was like, oh, I want to see a moose on Moose Lock. And I was like, yeah, we probably won't. But, and then so we're talking about that she hadn't seen a moose or a bear this summer. And so we're hiking down the mountain, and we're probably like, we just started descending. So we're maybe like, I don't know, still 2/3 up on the mountain, kind of in the alpine zone. And off to my right, I hear a big branch break. And from my time in the woods, you know that the only like a big game animal is going to break a branch. There's lots of squirrels and chipmunks and little critters that can like make noises in the leaves, and they're usually pretty loud, honestly. They make louder noises than some of the deer, bear, or moose. But when you hear a branch break, it's like 99% of the time it's going to be, usually it's a deer, but in the whites it could be a black bear or a moose. So I hear this branch break, and I basically just dive into the brush. And because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this might be a moose. We were just talking about this. This is the chance. So I kind of jump into the brush, and it's all kind of thick and blow down, and you can't really see far. So I'm kind of walking, and I'm making a lot of noise. Like, we can't sneak up on it. She kind of follows me a little bit, but I'm kind of hauling through the woods. And I start making I start doing a moose call. So like moose in the rut, they do like a weird call. I guess I'll do it quick, but it's like, ooh, ooh. Kind of something like that. So I'm throwing some of those out there because I'm like, oh, maybe I can make it think I'm a moose and it'll come kind of peeking, or at least whatever it is will just stop and stand there. So I keep going, I'm looking, and I finally get up to a spot where I can kind of see a decent amount, and I don't see anything. And I'm like, I really don't see anything. There was no moose. I couldn't go much further. Like, it was super thick in the woods. I gave it a shot, and I turn around. She's like, oh, you had me excited. And I was like, I know. I was kind of excited. It just sounded like a moose or something. So we get back to hiking down trail. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, on the left of the trail, it's on a branch break, but I'm hearing lots of stuff in the leaves. And going back to noises in the woods, like a squirrel or a chipmunk, when they make noises in the leaves, it's going to be kind of like intermittent, out of the blue. You're not going to hear anything, and then you hear like a loud, like, ch-ch-ch. Like, that's when like a squirrel hop, hop, hop. But then if there's logs, if there's trees, squirrels always climb up on those and hop on those. So like the noise of it crunching through the leaves as it goes, it's usually like intermittent. So it'll be like ch-ch, and then a little while, and then like ch-ch, like a loud one. And so that's kind of like a dead giveaway that it's some sort of like small game animal. It's kind of intermittent all over the place, and it's more leafy and less heavy. Well, this was like consistent, heavy, loud through the leaves. Like, if you think about it, deer, bear, moose, they have 4 legs, where like squirrels just do little hops. So you're going to hear more steps more frequently, and it's going to be a straight cadence unless they like completely stop, because they're not hopping on branches and stuff. So anyway, I'm hearing like a big, I'm hearing something, and it's pretty close on the trail. I don't see anything. I'm looking, and there's kind of some thick stuff. So I kind of, on the rocks, I'm kind of quiet, rock hopping down, and I go like 30 feet past the thick stuff, and I'm looking through the woods. It's kind of open, and right like at the end of this long lane of like visibility, I see like a dark flash in the woods, and I'm like, oh. And I mean, Jocelyn's not even close to me. I'm like, oh my, and I go back and tell her, I'm like, I don't know. Did you hear that? She's like, no, I didn't hear that. And I'm like, I think like 80% I just saw a bear or a moose. Like, I'm pretty sure the noise lined up with the sight of the flash. I saw this flash of dark. I think I just saw a bear or moose. She's like, oh wow, like, that's cool. Like, I didn't, and cool, I believe. And I'm kind of like, no, I really think I saw something. She's like, no, I believe you. Like, I don't believe you, I believe you. And now it's just like, I mean, the last 10 minutes, I'm just jumping in the woods at every little noise. She probably thinks I'm crazy, because I'm always kind of sharing with her like woodsman skills almost, especially during hunting season. I'm like telling her little tips like, oh, the wind can do different things based on the topography, and game trails, run along, whatever. So I'm always telling her these woodsmanship skills, like I'm some good woodsman, which like I'm really not. And now she just is with me hiking. I'm just jumping at the woods at any little noise that I hear. And so she's like, yeah, this guy's crazy. This is why he hasn't got any deer this year. Only one. But so anyway, so we keep walking, and a little bit further on the trail, I'm still I know what I saw. I feel like I saw something, but I'm not sure. I have no proof. And so we walk a little further, and there's this kind of patch of softwood. So it's kind of like the green stuff, and it's kind of open. Like, it just looked moosey, and I'm like, please just have the moose continue on the path it was going, and we could see it quick, and then we can get on with our day. And we don't see anything. And I'm just like, whatever. All right, so we keep hiking along. Probably 3 minutes later, I'm hiking along, and I see down the trail, I see a big black bear. And I'm like, oh my gosh, bear. And it's still to the left of the trail, and it's kind of like moving parallel down the mountain with the trail. And Jocelyn's a little bit behind me, so I called her. I'm like, bear. And she kind of comes running, smiling, and she gets up to me, and as soon as she kind of gets up to me, the bear goes behind this big blowdown, which is good because it's about to cross the trail perfectly. And she's in position. She's here. I see the bear, and then the bear comes out from the blowdown 50 yards. It wasn't like a straight trail, so we didn't have like a 100% clear view, but there were a couple trees in the way. But it was a really good view, and we just saw this big black bear at 50 yards. Walk right on by, and then head to the other side of the mountain. And so we were excited. It was cool to see that. I mean, one, like, I don't see many bears in the woods, so it's just, like, really cool to see a bear that close. And two, I'm thinking, like, thank God. I'm like, I knew what I saw, I'm not crazy. I saw something. I knew there was a bear. I knew I saw something. I heard something. So I don't know if it was the thing that made the branch break, 10 minutes ago, but anyway, we had that bear encounter, so that was cool. We got like kind of like a quick video of just a flash of black after it had crossed over the trail. So nothing worth showing, but at least visual evidence that we saw a bear. So that was the Moosalok black bear story. That was Sunday. Monday, I always take a rest day from running and training. Usually. Tuesday, I go to the track in the morning. No bears at the track. Oh, rewind. After we saw the bear, I said they should name this mountain Bearlock. Because Moosalok moose, Bearlock, we saw a bear. That joke went over her head, just like it went over yours. So we saw a bear on Moosalok. Could call it Bearlock. Okay. Oh, God. We might have to cut that. No, leave it in. Okay. Fast forward. Go to the track. No bears at the track. Have a decent track workout. Go to work. And then after work, I'm going out deer hunting for a couple hours, just locally. So I'm going out. I meet some guy at the trail. I see some guy at the trail who's also going out, and I chat with him for a while. It's kind of always nice to talk to. He was like a good guy. I'd been hunting there for a while, and just good to chat with him. So saw him. It was like a perfect fall day. So it was just in like it was a good fall day. So walking to the woods to my spot. I hadn't been in there this year yet, and I'm getting close to where I'm going to set up, and I'm coming over this kind of knob. And it had rained the day before, so the leaves weren't super crunchy. Like if it's raining or it rained that day, the leaves are very quiet. You can't hear anything walking in the leaves. If it rains the day before, usually the leaves are quieter, but they're not like silent. So you're making a little bit of noise, but it's not that typical like super loud crunch where you can just hear something coming from a mile away. So it's pretty quiet, and I'm coming over this knob, and apparently this black bear was coming over the knob from the other direction, and we kind of meet, and we're like 20 yards away. We both kind of see each other at the same time, and we both like look at each other like, hello. And so that was up close and personal with that bear, and saw it, but immediately I got my phone out to get it on video. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? This is bear mania. But it's funny too. So got a great look at that bear. I took a couple steps and it ran off. So it was a brief encounter. It was a close encounter, but it was very quick. But it was funny when the bear first saw me. It's always just kind of funny to me. Like, it froze, and it was giving me the look because I'm looking right at it, and it's looking at me like, oh my gosh, does that thing see me? And I'm thinking, like, it's black in the middle of, like, light brown reds. Like, it is so obvious that this thing is there. Like, they do not camouflage in at all. And it's just like, oh my God, does it see me? Do I have to run? Does it see me? And I'm like, yes, I see you. And so I took a couple steps and it ran off. So that was the second bear encounter. So back to back, not days, but times in the woods, I see bears and I'm just like, what is going on? But really cool. And going into the bear talk, what do those have in common? Very brief interactions, bear wanting nothing to do with you, and only seeing like pieces of the bear. Like not seeing a big bear right in front of you stand. Like you just get a flash, you see something quick, and then it goes. And that's pretty much what all of my bear encounters ever have been in the woods. And a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, you're always in the woods, or you're always, are you afraid of bears? Are you seeing big bears?" Or I don't know. I feel like bears get a little some sort of stigma to them. But people ask about bears a lot, and honestly, I usually just say like I just never see them. Is really the thing. I really rarely see them, and if I do, it's pieces, it's brief encounters, and then they're out of there. So like, do you have to be afraid of bears in the woods? No, you don't. Like black bears in the woods? No, you don't. Now, not saying like I feel like when I was growing up, I did a lot of hunting and fishing. I was in the woods, but I wasn't in the woods like all the time like I am now. Like, most days I'm getting on trail or something. So I think I was less comfortable in the woods and more maybe, yeah, if you see a bear, like, oh, is this a little bit spooky? I had like one incident where I got spooked by a bear once. And so I think it's like normal. It's like human nature to be kind of, on edge a little bit if you're newer to being in the woods, especially like at night. The woods can be a little spooky at night. Bears can be a little bit spooky. But once you spend a lot of time in the woods, a lot of time on the trails, like, and you have these experiences over and over, like, there's really nothing to be afraid of. So, yeah, don't be afraid of bears in the woods. It's like the statistic, you're way more likely to get into a car accident than you are to get attacked by a bear. Like, orders of magnitude, thousands of times more probable, and you're not scared to drive to work. So it's kind of like an irrational fear because these incidents just like don't happen. Like there are just there are millions and millions of people using trails all the time, and black bears don't attack humans basically at all. Well, I shouldn't say that because of the news this year, but very, very one-off occasions does that happen. So like statistically and logically, it doesn't make sense to be afraid of bears in the woods. Now, I think everyone says, like, don't get in between a bear or a mama bear and their cub. I think that with any animal, bear and bear cubs, moose and moose calves, like, don't get in between a mom and their baby. And I think that just, like, comes to being, like, aware on the trail. Like, general trail awareness will keep you out of all of these situations that could get you in trouble. So, you don't have to be afraid of wildlife. Honestly, I'm definitely probably more afraid of a moose in the wild than I am a bear, just because moose during like the mating season get really territorial and aggressive. And moose, like black bears, are afraid of you, like kind of terrified of you, most of them, and they just run away immediately. Moose really don't care. They like in places where people hunt them a lot, they are scared of humans, but they don't have any natural predators. So usually when you see a moose on the trail or in the woods, it just stands there. And so, if you get close to it, and it doesn't want to move, it's not going to move because there's no need to. It's massive, you're tiny. So, I think moose are a little bit more scary and intimidating. I think there are more moose incidents, like fatal moose incidents. There are very few than bears, but both like the probability of going to work, just driving 10 minutes to work. I have a short commute. Is much more dangerous than anything in the woods. And honestly, yeah, the thing that I'm most afraid of in the woods is like one, an untrained dog that, you have dogs nip at you a bunch because if you come bomb down a trail out of nowhere, don't hear you, a dog is like much more likely. I've had dogs go at me and little nips and go at you. just because you're running on the trail and you spook it. Like, way more afraid of running into dogs. And then sketchy humans. Sometimes you see people that in the woods that are just sketchy. And those, I've had much more sketchy human and sketchy dog interactions over zero sketchy bear and moose interactions. So it's kind of like the classic answer, like, oh, you should be more afraid of driving or flying, or you should be more afraid of driving than flying, or driving than getting attacked by like a great white shark or a bear. I think logically that makes sense. I think it's kind of human nature to be a little bit spooked by some of those things, so don't fault yourself but I think it just takes time being in the woods and just getting comfortable with like being out there and encountering wildlife, and you realize that you just have nothing to worry about. So that's the bear encounters, my thoughts on coming into contact with bears. Now, I will say, the Pemmy bear from this year. So there was a black bear, like I said, that was, and I think the last couple years in the same area near the Pemmy, so like near Owl's Head and the Bonds, Lincoln Woods, that area. There's lots of campsites. I mean, there's hikers everywhere, but lots of hikers in there. There was a bear that, basically, the only time a bear gets sketchy is if it gets food trained and like realizes that you have food. Because I'm pretty sure bears are like food territorial. So if they smell food, if they know there's food and they're used to like it being theirs, they think it's theirs. So there was a bear that was kind of not running away from hikers, and I think some people ended up like putting their bags down. The bear just took the bag and got the food off. So kind of causing mayhem. And I think that just reiterates, like, food trained bears, that's the only time you're going to have problems. Don't feed the bears. Don't leave food out when you're camping, and you're not going to have problems. So if you follow those rules, I mean, obviously you can't, everyone doesn't follow rules like that, but as long as a bear isn't like food trained, not going to be a problem. Like, I was talking to one of my buddies, he works at Cannon, and there are bears and bear cubs all the time on Cannon. They definitely den there. There's lots of food for them, like in the ski slopes. And he works and cuts some of the glades and does some just trail work and stuff. And he's like, oh, we were around the bears and their cubs every day, and there were never any problems. Like, you just get used to interacting with them on the the more you see them. So the only time you're going to run into problems is if you're giving bear food. Don't give a bear food. Like, you see these videos of like people feeding bear on their porches. I would not recommend. Free country, I wouldn't recommend doing it. So don't food train bears. Hopefully the Pemmy bear, I think they were trying to capture it, but I don't know if they ended up capturing it. I think they tried, but they couldn't do it, which is like, that's like, oh, well, how much of a problem really was it? I mean, obviously it's still a problem, but if you can't catch it, like, I figure just go out there, roll a bunch of honey around or whatever, and if it's in the area, it's going to come by. And I think there's always bears in the whites. I think stuff gets in the news, but I think there's always kind of bear and food. There's so many people in camping and stuff, and it's hard to be like 100% food clean. So there's always going to be some interactions, but hopefully there's going to be no more incidents with the Pemmy bear. And yeah, the next couple of years, we don't have to worry about, if you're running something in the Pemmy, having to pay a toll to a bear. Feed a bear a muffin. Is that the okay? And then, yeah, the Ozarks bear. So there was a bear in the Ozarks that I think 2 people got killed within the same month in the Ozarks, which is horrible and weird. I don't know if it was the same bear. I didn't really read into it too much, but I think it was the first time it had happened in like 150 years. So that just shows the probability of something happening. But that's super, super sad, and I don't know what caused it. I think one of them, it said, was a one-off situation. Another one, they euthanized the bear, and then they studied it or looked at it, and they said there was something I forget the term, but it was like a microscopic irregularities with something in the central nervous system. Microscopic irregularities in the central nervous system. So something was wrong with that bear. And honestly, I don't know why, but when I first read that, I was like, I think I have microscopic irregularities. That's why I run ultramarathons. But okay, so that was the bear talk. So wrap up the bear talk. Yeah, that was all I had. Okay, next up was my first ultramarathon. So last week I had talked about the first one that I signed up for, the Mid-State Massive, and meeting some other ultra runners, which was cool, and that kind of kicked off my ultra running stuff. And so I signed up for the race. I didn't do it. The next year I was going to do that race. Let me try to think. No. So the first year that I signed up for the race, this is how it happened. The first year I tried to sign up for the race, to do a 100-mile race, you usually can't just, like, some of them you can just show up, but you do have to, like, qualify. You have to do, like, a 50-mile race is usually, like, of equal difficulty is usually the requirement. So I had to run a 50-mile race, and I remember thinking, this was my mindset back then. I remember thinking, I don't want to run 50, because if I run 50, I might as well just run 100. Like, they're both going to stink. Like, it's gonna be really hard. That was kind of my mindset getting into it. And I didn't really even want to do it, but I was like, no, I have to do it to qualify. So this was during COVID, and a lot of the races were kind of sold out, hard to get into, whatever. But there was one race, it was called the Crazy New Year Ultra, and it was a 50-miler. And basically the requirement, it was a virtual race. You could run it anywhere. All you had to do was send this guy your GPX file of the 50 miles, and he would send you a little plaque that said 50-mile ultra or whatever. And you had to do it, so it was the Crazy New Year Ultra. You had to do it between January 1st and January 7th, so like the first week of the new year. That was the time frame, and there was only like 4 people that had signed up. I think I got second place out of 2 that actually did it. So you got second place, you got last place. I think that's how it worked out. But so I signed up for this race, and I was going to do it. This is going to qualify, and I had no running experience. I ran a marathon earlier that year. I had run a little bit that fall. I think I ran another just like on my own marathon. This was just on my own marathons during COVID. And then I was running maybe a couple times a week, a few miles a week. And I remember I signed up for it, and I just had like a pair of road shoes. I didn't have a vest. I had nothing. But I had signed up for it, and I think I maybe signed up for it a month prior. So I order a running vest. Didn't even have a running vest. I order a running vest. I ran with it one time. I was like, okay, this is good. Got it, which obviously it's not super complicated. It's just a vest. But I ran with it once. I wore a pair of Nike trail shoes, which Nike isn't really super, they don't make like crazy trail shoes. I think they're getting there, but this was 5 years ago now, almost 4 or 5 years ago. So I had these like Nike Pegasus trail shoes, and I had ordered Tailwind. I had never used it before, I don't think. And I ordered a bunch of snacks, and then I trained for like 2 weeks, and then it was 2 weeks before the new year. So it was around like Christmas time or whatever. And I was like, well, yeah, I think I ran for like a week or two. And I was like, well, I got to taper now for 2 weeks, because I was learning about tapering. So I had no idea what I was doing, but I was going to do the race. So New Year's Eve is upon us, and my plan was to get up at 4 a.m. to do the race. And I was just going to do 2-mile laps around my neighborhood. Didn't have a huge neighborhood. 2-mile laps, and I was going to do 25 of them. That was the plan, and that's what I did. And so all on road. There was no trails. I thought about doing it on trail, but there was no, we'll just stick to the road. I would circle back to all my stuff whenever I wanted to. So that was the strategy. And I remember that night, New Year's Eve is kind of like, I don't know, you get a little excitement like the New Year. Like, it's just, not that I don't usually stay up for the ball drop anymore or anything like that, but a little excitement, and I'm running the Ultra tomorrow. And I remember, like, one of my knees was kind of bothering me, and I wasn't feeling like 100%. Like, I feel like I don't know if I was sick the week before or something, or I was just like nervous, but I was feeling kind of off, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. But I really was in that like Goggins mindset of like, if you can't do it now, you'll never do 100 miles. So I was like, all right, I have to just do it. And I remember that night I could not sleep, couldn't go to sleep. I was trying to like sleep for a couple hours, couldn't do it. So I stayed up till midnight, and I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go now. Not going to wait till 4. So the ball dropped. I got all my stuff. I got ready, and I started at 12:45 a.m., 2021, January 1st. It was a cold night. I think it was like in the teens or the 20s. And so I'm bundled up. I had these like big pair of sweatpants. I remember I wore 2 pairs of pants. I had my Nike Trail Pegasuses. I had like a couple layers in like a cotton sweatshirt, my vest, a big beanie. Like none of the things that I would run in now, even just for a short run. But I had all these snacks laid out, Pringles and Skittles and Tailwind and all this stuff. And I went, and I remember Googling like the day before how to run an ultra marathon. And I remember I saw this technique, the run walk technique, which if you've done ultras for long enough, you know that like most people walk ultras. Someone put in the clip of Keeling being like, walking in an ultra is important. I think he said that once about UTMB. And his walking is like power hiking uphill. But walking is important in ultra. Most people walk portions of it. And it was like, I forget what my strategy was, but I was like, all right, I am going to run for 2 miles and then walk for 0.1, and that's what I'm going to do the whole time. Or run for a mile and walk for 0.1. Some sort of weird running interval thing that Google, this was before AI gave you suggestions. So this was just the first website that popped up on Google, how to run an ultra. So I did the run walk technique. I had never done it before. I was like, oh, okay, this sounds good. I'll do it. So I just would run hard for 2 miles, walk for 0.1, and then run hard for 2 miles. And I think the first half went fine, and I was very much like, I was just on that, like, yeah, it was more like the motivational, like, I wasn't really training. I didn't train super hard for it. It was more like, I just want to do this. It's a hard thing. It's cool. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to qualify for this 100. So the first half, I remember there was I don't remember anything big jumping out. I do remember, I don't know if I'll put these in or not, I do remember taking clips every, like, 6 miles. I would come back, get more water or whatever, and I would take like a video like 6 miles down. And I just remember like one of the quotes in it was like, I just look at the camera, I'm like, everybody's sleeping, not me. Like, so I would just say these kind of like, they're funny, they're good quotes, good to look back at. But every 6 miles I would take a little video and just be like, yeah, everyone's sleeping on New Year's, I'm getting after it. So that was the first half of the race. I think at mile 30, my mom came out and joined me. So it was getting sunny, and she joined me and just started running with me, which was very helpful. I think it was in a fair mood, but I think I was getting tired. Like, it was hurting, and I was getting tired, and like running on pavement after 30 miles I wasn't going super fast. So, but she ran with me, which is good. And I think this is my first ultra experience. I think I definitely maybe was cranky a couple times, or like I think I had a headache, and one time I was like, Mom, I can't really talk too much anymore. Like, I have a headache. Like, please stop talking to me for a second. Sorry, Mom. I just wasn't experienced, and from 30 to 40, it was just kind of like not having fun. And then I remember at maybe the 40-mile mark, I was very low energy. I was ready to be done. And I think I played music for the first time, and the music really helped me. I remember running for a half mile thinking like, oh my God, I'm just going to sprint this into the end. And then like a half mile after I started the music, I just was bonking like I wasn't eating enough, and I just felt horrible, and I had to walk again. And then from the last 5 miles were just horrible. I was thinking like, I'll never do this again. This is not for me. This is not fun. This stinks. Everything hurts. My hamstrings hurt. My knees hurt. Not fun. Barely moving. And that was like my first introduction to like, yeah, these are really hard. And I remember I had all this food stuff. I just drank Tailwind the whole time because my stomach was like upset or something, and I didn't want to eat anything else. So that's how it went, but I finished it, and I think it was 9 hours and 22 minutes. I don't know what pace that is, but I think it was good for my first one, for doing the run walk technique, for all the stuff. I think I'm proud that I got to the end of it, and I remember my legs were so sore at the end. And yeah, I think like every hard ultra, you get to a point where like, I don't think I like this anymore. This is not for me. And then not even a couple days after, you're like, I need to get better at this. I want to get better. I need to do better. I want to feel that pain again. So that was my first ultra. That kicked it off. And again, congrats to me for coming in second in that race out of 2. You can make what is that? Guaranteed podium. Guaranteed podium with a race with 2 people in it. So, yeah, that was my first marathon. in my first story. Maybe I'll throw in those videos, but maybe not. I don't know if I could even find them. All right, it is 2021. How do I flip this? I don't know if I can flip this. I got my backup watch here. Gonna throw that in the pack, and then I'm gonna set the watch that I'm running with once I get started. And we're going for 50. It's I think it's almost 1, so maybe if you're doing 10 or 11 hours, be done by noon. See how it goes. So it's January 1st. Sign up for the virtual crazy New Year run, 50 miles. And my plan was to get up at 4 and start then, but couldn't really sleep, so you got to do it between January 1st, January 9th. This is the first, 1 a.m. Let's do it. Right. Now we're in. And I just stopped for the first time, so got more water and just gonna keep to it. Time's at 1:45. Let's get it. Stop back at the house second time. Got 12.5 miles, 2 hours in. Let's get it. All right. That was the third stop to refill. Now almost 19. Feeling good. 3:51, so a little over 3 hours. Everyone's sleeping. Not me. Let's get it. All right. We're at 25, halfway. It's 5:02, so 4 hours and maybe 20 minutes. Feeling good. I know that these videos probably suck, but whatever. I feel like, I don't know, am I in the frame of this one? I feel like this one might be all right. I was thinking about it this last hour. I'm gonna get that next video. So here we go. It's 5:03. I've seen one car so far tonight. One car and no people. Everyone's still sleeping. All right, 29.3. Got me, mom. Whoa, slow down, tiger. 5:55. 33.3. About sunrise. 17 more. 39.3. Sun's up. My mother, and we got one more, Tracy. 11 more miles. 43.4. 8:48. So, yeah, I guess it shows on the time there, but 8 hours. I'm alone for these couple laps. My mom's gonna come for the last one now. She's a trooper, but I got music, so maybe that'll help. I'm not sure. We gotta get it by 10. We gotta get it by 10 hours. I mean, 6.5. We'll see. Let's get after it. So that was my first ultra. I think eventually I'll recap all the ultras and ultra efforts that I've done as I see fit. But yeah, that was my first ultramarathon. I'm sure a lot of you guys have similar first ultra stories, so would be interested to hear other people's kind of crazy stories. But everyone's first ultras, ooh, what is this? And then it just, wow, this is really hard, but I think I need to do more. Okay, that was my first ultra. Now we're getting into some training talk. Oh, the moose story. No, we'll do the moose story before the training talk. If you're here for the training theory, I appreciate you. You have to wait a little longer. Okay, the moose story. So this goes back to the bear stuff, being more afraid of moose than bears. I always have this thought, and this is just like maybe a sign that I spend too much time in the woods, but I have this thought: if I'm in the woods and like I had a moose, a big bull moose that was maybe it took bath salts or was just like out of its mind, it wanted to attack me. What is my strategy? I'm running along, I'm hiking or whatever, and I just see out of nowhere just this big moose come crashing through the woods. What is my reaction? Like, what is my game plan? Like, I got to game plan this. So here is what I've thought about. I think there's a few options. I think, well, with a moose, like unlike a bear, they can't climb a tree. So I think ultimately to get to safety, you have to climb a tree. So climbing a tree. Now it depends if you're like in the alpine, if you're down low, but let's just say it's a good mix of like regular woods around New England. A bear's coming at you. I think there are two types of trees that you could go for. You could go for like a hemlock tree or a tree with lots of branches on it that's like easy to climb and you can get high up in the tree. And I think that's one option. But I think sometimes hemlocks, it's hard to there's so many branches that it's kind of hard to climb quickly, and you kind of got to turkey your body. And so if you jump up and start climbing a tree with lots of branches, it'll take you a little bit to actually, it's not just like a ladder that you can fly up. You got to kind of maneuver around the branches, and you might just get up a little ways and you're at horn height and the thing just come and horns you. So I don't know if a lot of branches is going to be quick enough for me to get out of the danger zone. Of course, once you get out of the danger zone, there's lots of branches. You can kind of just hang out up there and you're safe and you're good, and the moose is going to have to go off. I think the other option would be somewhat of like a fireman's pole tree, like a skinnier tree with no branches, but you can kind of run, get a good jump, and then do a couple shimmies up really quick. I think that's a quicker way to get out of the danger zone. But I think if you get up there and it sticks around for a little bit, like how long can you just bear hug the pole and not slide down to the crazy moose? I don't know. And the other thing is, I've never tested it. I can't test it right now. I've never tested it, but are you even going to be able to do a few shimmies? Because again, if you can't shimmy up it, you just get one jump, you're at horn height, you're done for. So those are, I think, the two options. And again, this is hypothetical. But moose don't do this. This is like this is one of my crazy little just situations that I made up in my brain. This would never happen, hopefully. But those are the two plans. Between the two, if I had to pick one, I just feel like my senses would send me up the fire pole quicker. I don't know. I think it would just be a safer option instead of like monkey around with like branches. And maybe if you fire pull up high enough, the tree will bend, and then you can kind of like squirrel over to the next tree if you really need to. So I don't know what would happen, but I think a third option. I think this is the most risky, but I think this is the highest reward. The third option is you find like a big bushy tree or a really large diameter tree, and let's say you have 2 seconds that this bull moose is on you. You take those 2 seconds, you hit a tree. I mean, the bull moose are huge. They don't have great eyesight, and I wouldn't think that they're super agile. I'm wearing Hokas, okay? I'm trail running in Hokas. So I'm thinking you take those 2 seconds, you get the moose right on your butt, and then you go around a big tree and you do a hard like 90-degree angle or like a U-turn around the tree. The bull moose goes flying by. That gains you an extra few seconds. So now let's say you have 5 seconds. Now you have a much better selection of tree to jump up and do the fire pole or do that. I think your brain can process it a little bit and get a little better tree instead of just throwing yourself at the closest tree. So I don't know. I think if you're willing to risk it, I say you do a little bull moose ole with a little red flag. You use your Hokas, your agility, you hit a quick right, and then you find a better tree, the ideal tree within your range, and then you jump up and you climb up in it. And I think that's how you escape a bull moose that has taken bath salts and wants you. I don't know where I came up with that, but those are my strategies. And do I have anything else to say about that? No, I thought that would just be kind of like a fun hypothetical to think about. I thought there was one other thing, but I guess I'm forgetting it. Sometimes I have topics I want to talk about or little things I want to put in, and I completely forget them when the camera rolls. So yeah, that's the bear talk, or that's the moose situation. If you have any opinions on the best way to avoid a moose on bath salts, comment them and let me know. But okay, now into something serious. Now let me tell you about Zone 1, Zone 2 training. No, let's talk about Zone 1 and Zone 2 training. Easy training, one will say. I guess let's start by defining off what is Zone 1 and what is Zone 2 training. Basically, there are different models of training. I think there are two very popular models. So there's a 3-zone model, which is Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. That's it. And there's a 5-zone model, Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, more zones, a little bit more complex. But we'll start with a 3-zone model. So in a 3-zone model, Zone 1 is really Zone 1 and Zone 2 of the 5-zone model. And that upper threshold of Zone 1 in the 3-zone and Zone 2 in the 5-zone is like your aerobic threshold, they call it. And basically, I said earlier in the podcast, I'm not a scientist. We'll dabble in it a little bit, and then I'll do more anecdotal stuff. But when you're running, you use two different systems. You use your anaerobic system, which is sprinting, high output, and you build up lactate. You've heard of lactic acid. You build up lactate acid in your muscles, and when you're running anaerobically, that lactic acid, you're putting so much high output that it's a byproduct of kind of utilizing your energy, and then you produce lactic with eventually shuts your muscles down. Aerobic training is basically you stay under the threshold of lactate production, so it's lower intensity training, and you can do it for a long time. And that's like the basic of endurance training is your aerobic capacity, we'll call it. So sprinters want to be really good at using their anaerobic system, putting out as much output as they can for a short period of time and becoming good with lactic in their muscles. And then long distance runners, endurance runners, ultra runners, they want to be really good at running in that aerobic system where you're not producing lactate, where you can just go forever. And those are like the two basically systems for running. And so if you look at lactic acid production in your muscle, that is like what defines this aerobic and anaerobic limits. Basically, in your blood, you're going to have lactic acid buildup, and 2 millimoles of lactic acid is basically the cutoff for that Zone 1 and Zone 1 and Zone 2 threshold. And the reason why 2 millimoles is like a big number is if you look at your lactic acid production on a graph, it basically goes like this, and then at 2 millimoles, it goes up much steeper. And so for that first section here, before the graph goes way up and you start producing a lot of lactic and your muscles start shutting down, lactic acid buildup is very minimal and it's very low. It's about the same. And so that basically threshold is your aerobic threshold, and anything below that is aerobic training. And like I said, for long distance efforts, you want to be as aerobically fit as you can. That is like the staple of endurance running. How aerobically fit are you? So to train that aerobic fitness, you want to train in that Zone 1 or Zone 2. Now, Zone 1 or Zone 2, when people say Zone 2 training is the best, they're talking about a 5-zone model. It's basically the upper end of your aerobic working before you get past your aerobic threshold. That's what like the Zone 2 training is about. That zone is the most powerful for developing your aerobic system. Now, all endurance runners need that aerobic system. It is good to have strong legs and be good under anaerobic conditions, but if you're running hard all the time, you're not going to have that aerobic base, and you might get faster for a little bit in the short term, but in the long term, you're not going to develop as a runner. So the base of your training, like 80% of your training needs to be aerobic at least. And most of it, should be in that zone 1 or zone 2. Now, how do you decide between zone 1 or zone 2? Basically, if you're staying healthy and you're getting faster, that is a good sign. Whatever you're doing is working. Some people's aerobic threshold, so that zone 2, like elite runners, they'll be in the 5-something minutes per mile pace, like sprint, like so fast. And they can't run zone 2 every day. If they run zone 2 every day, they're going to get hurt because they're so aerobically fit. Their muscles and their tendons cannot take it. So they are going to do most of their training in zone 1, some of their training in zone 2, and then their speed work higher than their aerobic threshold. Now, most of us aren't running aerobically at a 5 whatever minute mile, so you can probably do more zone 2 training because aerobically you're not as fit as those top-end performers. So you need to find a balance of where you're staying healthy and getting faster and you're not doing too hard, too fast running. They say run your easy runs easier and your harder runs harder. And that basically goes into the zone 1, zone 2. Now, the whole goal of endurance training is to increase that aerobic threshold. So if you're doing ultramarathons, the goal is to make that the pace that you can run aerobically as close to the pace that you can run while you are anaerobically as you can. So like elite sprinters, they may run a super fast pace for 20 minutes, but they can't run, but the pace that they can run for 10 hours is not close to that pace. Ultra runners basically they don't care about what they can run for 20 minutes. They basically want the pace that they can run for 10 hours to be as close as they can to that pace that they could run for an hour. That's how you know you're aerobically fit. If the pace that you can hold for hours on end is close to a pace that you can hold for like an hour, then you're doing good aerobically. So that is like the whole goal of endurance running. And to get there, you have to be doing zone 1 or zone 2. Now, when you first start running in these zones, it is not going to be fun because if you haven't been running in these zones, it's probably just going to be a really slow pace or it's going to be slower than you want to be running. A lot of people are training, I think, too fast. They're running too fast all the time and they're not developing that aerobic capacity. When you start out with this zone 1, zone 2 training, it's going to be lower heart rate and lower paces, like much slower paces. And at first you're going to be frustrated. But what I've seen over the last few years, is it doesn't happen quickly, but if you get to running in that lower heart rate, that aerobic state, eventually your body will catch up and it will get better at keeping that heart rate low and not using as much energy. We had ATVers all over the place. Sorry about that. So what I find now is when I go on, even when I'm pushing on longer efforts, I've been doing so much low heart rate training that it's hard to get my heart rate up for a long time. I have to be like sprinting. I can go at like moderate paces for a very long time and my heart rate isn't getting super high. Now, muscularly, your legs are going to need to be fit and strong and be able to take that beating over and over, but it's going to be you're using less energy to do it. And that takes time. Like it took me years to really be like, oh wow, my heart rate is staying really low, compared to what it used to be a couple years ago. And so I didn't touch a ton about heart rate, but that low zone 1, zone 2 training, really you want to look at your lactate. That would be like to determine the zones, but you can really go on heart rate to get a really good gauge of your zones. And it's really just low heart rate training that you've probably heard about. So like zone 1 training, people never want to put out numbers, but it's like if you do, you can do calculators online, but for most people, it's going to be like maybe in their 120s, 130s, 140s, depending on your age. And that zone 2 is going to be like 130s, 140s, 150s, depending on your age, heart rate. And basically, you want to be doing as much of that as you can. I think structuring a training plan, you want to have speed workouts, long runs, hill strides, and then everything else should be easy running zone 1, zone 2. Now, I talked a little bit, how do you know, should I do zone 1 or zone 2? Like, they're both aerobic. One's faster, a little bit more intensity, and one's slower and super low intensity. Whatever you're feeling. So I think schedule a bunch of easy runs. If you're feeling kind of meh, if you're feeling run down, tired, sore from the next day, go zone 1, go super easy. Like, on zone 1 runs, if it's cool out in the fall, I don't even sweat that much. I could have a chit-chat conversation the whole time. Like, it is extremely casual, and it makes running fun. Like, I think people run too hard, too much, and they're like, running isn't fun. Like, if you just go out on a trail, run super easy, it's not strenuous, and you just get some fresh air and get to go explore places, it's actually fun. That's what your training should be like. Whenever you're feeling meh, if you had a hard workout, go zone 1. Now, if you're scheduling an easy run and you're feeling good, you just have a lot of energy, and you want to go a little bit faster, go zone 2. You're going to be more productive in that aerobic zone. If you're not injured, you're not sick, and you're feeling good, you're probably not overtraining. So go a little bit faster and go in that zone 2 area. So, and the more you do that over time, the more you will develop as a runner. Your aerobic system can continue to develop into your 40s. Like, that's why there are so many, like, the best marathoners in the world, ultramarathoners in the world are not all, and they're just young 20s out of college, like a lot of professional sports. Your aerobic system can develop, and that is the basis of all ultra running. Anything over like a 5K, 10K, it's just aerobic development. So if you do spend more time in zone 1 or zone 2, your aerobic's only going to get better. Do speed workouts, do hill strides, do long runs, and stay healthy. Make sure you're getting faster. Try to push yourself on those speed workouts, those hill strides, those long runs. Do some races, and then the rest of it, just do zone 1, zone 2 super easy, and I promise you, you will get faster, but it does not happen quickly. You can get really fit really fast if you're doing a lot of hard efforts, but it is unsustainable. You're going to get hurt. Your aerobic development is going to eventually catch up, and you're going to plateau. If you want to get better at running faster for years to come, you have to be focused on easy running, zone 1, zone 2. So that's the zone 1, zone 2 talk. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, so I know some of that was kind of like not explained super well, but that's what you get here. You get crazy bear stories and you get a little bit of hoopla. But okay. Next up, the Biggs Backyard Ultra. We'll just touch on this quick, the results. Start off, a new world record for the women's last man standing backyard ultra style races. Sarah Perry of Great Britain runs for 95 straight hours, 396 miles. So she was one lap away from 400 miles. She runs for almost 100 hours. So 95 straight hours of running 4 miles every hour. That is just insane. She sets a new world record. Congrats to Sarah Perry. And then the overall winner was Australian Phil Gore. He ran for 475 miles, 114 straight hours, almost 5 days of running. If you think that you are tough, if you are mentally strong, if you got grit, think again. You have so much more grit and mental strength to achieve. Like, can you, because I promise you, you probably are not going to be able to run 5 straight days. That is next level insanity. And honestly, it takes a lot of grit and a lot of toughness. And these people are maxing out on that stuff. But I also think people are getting very good at like this race format. They're getting very good at what paces work for them. It's like a NASCAR crew pit. They know exactly what they need to eat, what they need to drink, how their massages, how much to sleep. I'm going to sleep 7 minutes this lap or whatever. They're getting this down to a science. They're pushing the limits of the human body. Guys, I don't know how much further we need to go here. 5 days straight of running. Like, how much crazier could it get? I mean, I don't even know what's the maximum output. If people just get better at this over the years, will somebody eventually get to 1,000 miles? I have no idea. Like, this is just It's just insane to think about. And then third place overall was Harvey Lewis of the U.S. He's a big ultra last man standing guy. He shows up and puts up crazy performances. He did 111 laps, so he's in the podium too. I don't really think there's a podium at last man standing races. It's pretty much just the winner. Everyone else DNFs, and then the assist usually gets an attaboy, a pat on the back for second place, because basically you need the second place person for the first place person to get however many miles that they got. So that was the Bigs Backyard Ultra. They ran for 4/5 days out there. A world record goes down. Humans are getting freakishly tough. I don't know how much. I mean, we've always been tough, but people are pushing the limits. It's cool to see. And yeah, everybody listening could be stronger, could be tougher. So just get to it. All right. What else we got? We talked about that. Oh, my week of training. Yeah, we'll just do a quick week of training. So this week I talked about, Monday rest day. Tuesday I did a track workout. It was my first track workout, and I thought it was a few months. I posted a YouTube video if you were interested. I thought it was a few months. I think it was 6 months since I'd done a track workout. So I did a 3x1 mile interval workout with a lap in between of like easy running. It went fairly good. That workout itself, I think, is a good predictor of your 5K pace, because your legs can hold that output, and then on race day you can usually redline with the adrenaline and whatnot to get close to that the pace that you did for each of the reps. So it went fairly well. I think it was actually one of my better. I think it was about tied for like the best workout I've done in that style, but I didn't have my big shoes on. I didn't have my carbon plated big shoes, super fast shoes, so that would have added a little bit of time. So it was like a good workout, but I hadn't done track in a while. And I think it's really good to mix in track workouts. Like I talked about in the video, you need one of the biggest predictors of ultra marathon performance is your just speed, your 5K, 10K times. So if you're really fast 5K, 10K person and you put in a ton of volume to get your legs ready for an ultra marathon, you're probably going to do really well. So I think it's something that you should really mix into your training. If you're not doing track stuff once a month, I think it's like a good, if you don't have an injury, because they are really hard on the legs, if you don't have an injury, mix in track once a month and do like fast intervals, like a mile or less intervals, or shorter intervals, and that's just going to boost your top end speed. Like my legs were decently sore after the next day, so there's like muscles and muscle fibers that I'm probably not recruiting when I'm just doing hill workouts. I do a lot of hill workouts, Stairmaster workouts, and I think combining those two together, you're working two different muscles, and they're both going to help you in the mountains. The stairs are more specific. The track is more just speed oriented. You're going to develop better as a runner. So I think, mix in track workouts, work on your top end speed, always do your hill strides, and that was my Tuesday workout. Wednesday, my ankle was a little bit sore after the track, but it was fair. I think Wednesday I just did an hour 15 on the bike, so I'm doing, whenever I have something that's a little bit sore bothering me, I just do my easy stuff, cross training on the bike or on the stair climber. So I did an hour and a half on the bike. And then Thursday, I did a trail run with some hill strides, like a moderate trail run, moderate on the uphills, easier on the downhills, and then some hill strides. Friday, I did easy bike again. I think I just did an hour. And then today, I did stairs. I went and did the stair climber, and tomorrow I'll do a longer trail run just because I had some stuff to do today, couldn't get up north. So that was my week of training. I think the big takeaway from this week is mix in track. If you haven't in a while, you're probably going to grab a little bit of gains that you've been putting off. And then if you have an injury, you do a track workout, easy sub-in, cross-training for your easy runs. Keep developing that aerobic. Those are the takeaways, I think. Anything else? Yeah, always do your hill strides. That's always a takeaway. So that was my week of training. I kind of wanted to do a harder effort in the mountains next week, but I kind of have a lot of stuff going on, and I think it's getting icy up there, and so we're kind of getting into shoulder season in the mountains, so harder, faster efforts. You're just kind of risking it with ice and leaves and stuff. And so I may be shutting down some of the faster efforts until the trails get snowed in up north. So, yeah, we're at an hour here. Okay, so we're going to wrap this thing up soon. So that's all. Those are all the running topics. Last thing I wanted to do quickly was a deer season update. So, like I said, I'm just going to start doing these weekly. No deer this week. Went out a handful of times, did not see anything, and I'm kind of just getting my butt handed to me a little bit. I think I had a really good deer season last year, and at this point last year, I think I had got 4 deer. This year, I just have 1 small deer so far, and I think I've hunted more than I did last year, so I'm doing something wrong. Now, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but there are some takeaways. It's I've hunted more than I did last year, so I'm putting the time in. But I think this year has been a little difficult for a few reasons, and here are just my general takeaways. I think one, time spent hunting is going to be one of probably the predictors of success there. But I think just time spent, probably miles in the woods, miles walked in the woods is probably going to be the number one predictor of success. I think sometimes I get carried away with too much, which is like always being in the stand, like feeling like I'm hunting, when I should just be like, take a day, instead of going hunting tonight, I'm just going to walk 5 miles in this piece of woods and find the freshest, best sign. And if I never set up and have a set for the night, that's fine. And you're just going to collect more data that way, because I think this year I did less scouting than I had in the past during the summer, which I think is fine. But I think in-season scouting is super important. Finding out where the deer are right now is very important. And I think I haven't been doing as much of that, and I've just been in the stand too much. And I've been setting up on Stein, so it's not like, I don't know, it's not like I'm just hunting in bad places, but I've been moving around a lot still like I normally do, but it just hasn't worked out. So I think one takeaway is just like more boots in the ground, less time in the stand, especially in September and October before the rut kicks in November. So that's my takeaway there. The other thing is, I think you look at people online, YouTubers, big hunters, everyone once in a while has tough seasons. I think there's a lot of luck in hunting, and I think there's maybe a lot less than people think, but there is always still going to be a luck component, and sometimes it just things don't work out. Like I've been seeing deer this year, but I just haven't been able to connect as much as I have in the past. And I think just don't get discouraged. Every day I'm out there, I'm collecting more data in a certain sense. Most of the data collected recently has been this spot stinks. But yeah, just keep the spirits up, and I'm still excited for November. November's like the best season. Gun season opens up in a couple weeks, and the rut kicks in, so more deer moving around. So yeah, my spirits are high, but I do think this has not been a super successful deer season thus far. So yeah, I think more boots in the ground. I think this year I haven't been hunting. I usually don't hunt mornings because mornings take a lot out of you. Like if you're waking up super early, that can kind of throw off your whole schedule. And obviously, I always prioritize running and training. So I haven't been doing a lot of mornings, and it was warmer earlier in the year, and I feel like deer have been moving around more in the mornings anyway. So that could be one thing. Like I'm just neglecting getting up early, which is kind of on me. And then the third thing, I think this year has been super dry. So everyone knows it's been a really big drought, but I think it's had a lot of impact. There's been a lot of places that are not dropping acorns at all, and the deer are just are just nowhere to be found. And I think earlier in the year I was focusing on like always being near water. I think especially during the drought, and even if there's not a drought, like you need to be near some sort of water source. Deer drink in bed near water every day. But also, I think it changes what they want to eat. Like, I think I was talking to a local farmer the other day, and she was saying that the deer have been hammering her vegetables, her pumpkins, all these different vegetables because it has so much water in it because it's been so dry everywhere. So I don't know if, the acorn crop has been different. There's probably different plants that that the deer are feeding on that has been different than in the past. And I've kind of been going to some of the spots that I know have been good in the past that maybe aren't as good this year specifically because it's been so dry. So I think the big takeaways from this year are more boots on the ground in general. Don't be afraid to go scout more than you're sitting in your stand. I think miles walked in the woods is going to be probably the number one indicator of success, in my opinion. 2, if you got spots that are good in the past, doesn't mean they're going to be good this year. Don't be rigid. Be flexible and be current on being where the deer are. That's all I'll say there. Yeah. Don't be hard set on, oh, this spot was good. This has been good in the past. I'm going to go there and just sit there. Make sure you're finding where the deer are this year in time, and then don't get discouraged. I just do a double finger down. Don't get discouraged because sometimes it's just hard for things to line up perfectly, especially with a bow. With a bow, it's super hard to get. Like, I've been seeing a bunch of deer, but with a bow, you have to get a lot closer, clear shots, all that stuff, so it's harder. So keep the hopes up. Keep hunting. I don't think this tough season hasn't changed how much I would have hunted, but it's been tough. So the last few sits I've been like, I need to start seeing deer because this is getting brutal. The beginning of the year I've seen a lot of deer, but the last couple weeks have been brutal. But the October lull, that's all right. November's almost here. I'm excited. And that was the deer season update. So that's all I got for today. Hour town almost. I think this is a good length. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the episode. Thanks to everyone who's been watching, commenting, liking. All that stuff has been super super awesome to see, and I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I'm going to keep doing it. Like I always say, I'm going to try to keep getting better audio, better all this stuff. Just, better videos. Just try to improve. I feel like talking is a little bit of like an art. Yeah, maybe an art. And you got to get better at it. And I definitely know that I'm not the best at maybe explaining things sometimes. So I'm going to just try to keep improving on making sure that I'm bringing the stories and the values to you guys in a clear and concise way. Dropping the ums and the likes. I know that was one thing I was like, maybe I shouldn't just say. Been doing a lot of ums and likes. We're going to try to improve on that each podcast. So thanks for sticking with us. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time. Peace.